The Dow closed down slightly yesterday, but investors are hoping some new economic indicators will boost stocks back up today. Here to take a look at this and some of the other business news this morning, Bloomberg reporter Courtney Donahoe. Good morning, Courtney.
Well, great to be here with you.
So lots of economic news out this morning, reports on housing and producer prices. Give us a breakdown on these two reports.
Well, first, let's start out with housing. Got us in the recession that we're in right now. But housing starts, and that's builders breaking ground on homes, beginning more work on homes than forecast in January, a 15% gain. But work started on 78% more multifamily units. And this is an important factor because it may be showing a turnaround in the rental market. But economists still remind us that the underlying market is still very soft in housing. Building permits, for example, that's an indicator for future construction. That dropped 10%. And the housing market may continue to see more pressure with all the foreclosures that's right now on the market. But I want to switch gears a bit and talk about those wholesale prices rising for a seventh month. And the reason behind it is higher prices for fuel. But Asia and Latin America, they're boosting demand for oil, they're boosting demand for other commodities, and that's pushing up a lot of those costs for factories. Well, stocks right now, they are higher out of the gate. Futures, they stayed higher after those reports, and this is keeping the S&P on this roll, 96% gain from those March lows.
Courtney, we've been talking about Borders, who they filed for bankruptcy this morning. What drove the bookseller to this point?
Well, they did management changes, they did job cuts, they did debt restructuring, but that didn't help at all. It failed to make up for all the sagging book sales that they've been seeing. Amazon, Walmart, too, huge competitors. Well, Borders, they're going to shut about 30% of those underperforming stores. They're also going to restructure their financing, and the company plans to restructure, and then they want to continue to operate. But I want to point out that the market value has dropped by more than $3 billion for the company since 1998. But they didn't adapt to the shifts in the ways that consumers shop. A lot of other competitors, they got out there ahead of Borders. But for example, Borders e-commerce site, that came out in 2008, but that's more than 10 years after Amazon came on the scene. So a little behind the ball there.
The stock to watch today, Dell. Tell us about the computer company's profits and growth, Courtney.
Yeah, well, fourth quarter earnings beating estimates. The company's making headway in the market for data centers. Now, EPS came in at 53 cents, but that was a big beat. Analysts were expecting 37 cents. Sales growth, that also exceeded expectations. But the company has been focusing more on their strategy. They've been going in, making a lot more acquisitions because they want to offer a broader range of software and storage and security and also services. And it's also higher profit margins than their traditional PC base. Michael Dell, he spent the past 4 years, he's been trying to turn around the business. Growth's been stalling. They lost their lead in PCs to Hewlett-Packard, and he's moving to diversify rather than compete head-to-head with Hewlett-Packard in the PC market. And analysts say that the company will continue to rally. It's going to continue to see gains if it can grow as quickly as the forecast while also preserving the profitability.
And speaking of earnings, we've got a deer in the headlights, so to speak, today. Tell us about John Deere's earnings report.
Yeah, raising the profit forecast. Farm equipment maker reporting first quarter profit that came in ahead of analyst estimates. And one of the reasons, these higher crop prices that we're seeing right now, these record commodity prices. So we saw gains in tractors and also in combines. And I want to also point out that construction, it is coming back. That's what they're saying. And Deere expects sales to keep moving higher through 2011. 16% gains for farm equipment, 35% for construction equipment, so a lot ahead for them.
That's encouraging. Comcast also out this morning with results, and how did the media company do?
Yeah, topping estimates too, and they also plan to boost their dividend and also their stock buyback program too. I want to point out that the company took control of NBC Universal last month, and analysts saying it's going to give the company a lot greater clarity when it comes to their financials. And the company, they perform behind Time Warner Cable and also Cablevision, and also average revenue that increased 10%. They're raising prices. They're trying to persuade customers to pay them a lot more by expanding their high-def programming and also TV shows that can be watched online too.
All right. And on the deal radar this morning, what can you tell us about the huge merger between two European biotech firms?
Well, Sanofi buying Genzyme and the price tag $20 billion, and it's been a long time coming. 9 months this deal has been in the works. Genzyme shareholders are going to get $74 in cash and also other incentives. Now, Genzyme, that's the world's largest maker of medicines for rare genetic disorders, and this is going to help Sanofi deal with all the increasing competition from the generics out there, and analysts saying that this deal buys them a little more time for those generics. Now, the problem is, for a lot of these companies, is when your top sellers end up going generic. Now, Genzyme, on the other hand, they've been independent for about 30 years, but manufacturing glitches, it led to shortages of their drugs back in 2009. That drove down shares, and it left them very vulnerable to a takeover, as we saw today.
Okay, changing gears, G20 finance chiefs meeting in Paris this weekend. What are they hoping to accomplish?
Well, it's all about global imbalances and what's causing them. Now, the G20, they want to look for ways to reduce surplus, reduce the deficits that a lot of economists blame in part for the big financial crisis that we saw back in 2008. Now, French finance minister, she said that they're aiming to find indicators that's going to identify these imbalances and correct them. And she said that China saves, China exports, Europe consumes, the U.S. borrows and consumes, but she asks, is this model really balanced? And she actually answers her own question, saying probably not. Currencies, too, that once again, that's going to be on the radar. And China also, because of its exchange rate, the yuan, and commodities prices, too, these huge gains in commodities prices.
All right, Bloomberg reporter Courtney Donahoe, thanks so much for all that information this morning. Good to see you.
Thank you.